That's fine.
Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock on the dot. We are still letting ourselves catch up to admit people in. So we're going to give it just a minute. In the meantime, look down there at that chat and add in your dish that you're looking forward to enjoying the most in the upcoming holiday season. So I can hit you all up for recipes later. And we're going to get a few more people in and then we're going to get started, okay? We have officially hit 100 people, so I feel like that's a good way to get started this morning. We're going to keep omitting a few people, but I wanted to welcome everyone to the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood November 17th webinar. The focus of our webinar today is going to be delivering strategies with impact. And we have some special guests with us today from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, since that's going to be our first bright spot example that we're going to focus on. A couple housekeeping things while we're still admitting some people. Please remember to keep your self muted unless you are speaking. The mute buttons are down at the bottom, but you can please and do use your reaction buttons at the bottom. It's the smiley face with the plus sign when people are speaking, or just to give people a high five or you agree with them. Those are good interaction tools, and please feel free to use them as throughout. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please include those in the chat, and we will be monitoring those as we go. And then at the end, we're going to take time. We'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and discussions, and we'll read those aloud and address those at those time. But feel free to include those as we go so you don't forget. This will be recorded, so we'll send it out to you post-webinar along with a survey that we would really appreciate you taking the time to do, because it gives us the feedback needed to continue to improve these and to do topics that benefit you all. And I really want to thank you all for taking your time out today to be with us. Everyone on this call is important to us, and you're the reason that we do what we do here at the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood. So without further ado, we're going to continue to admit a few people, but I am going to hand it over to our Executive Director, Miss Amy Neal.
Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everybody. I'm super psyched that we've got over 100 people joining, and I see so many of our friends here. It's really hard for me to stay on task and to not do a bunch of shout outs, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay on task. I see people laughing at me right now because they know me. And I've got a couple slides I just want to pour through. Megan, if we can pull those up, just to ground us all in the why we're here and who the Governor's Office of Early Childhood is. And I don't see any slide. Oh, here they come. And so just real quickly, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. The original goals of the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood, we always like to go ahead and go to the next slide, Megan, was around greater collaboration, emphasizing quality and continuous improvement, and ensuring that more children are prepared for kindergarten. And we always like to ground ourselves there because, as we all know, there's little time and there's much to do. Next slide. And the other thing that it's super exciting, when I came on board, I think it was May in 2020, was we have a lot of strengths to build upon. And so many of you all that are on this call helped get us to where we are today. And it really all started in, 2000, over 20 years ago. And we have a whole lot to be proud of, because Kentucky was one of the very first states to establish early childhood standards, an Office of Early Childhood, a consensus-driven definition of kindergarten readiness, and to institute the Brigance. And so now we can track how many kids are ready for kindergarten, and we can use data to determine where kids are before kindergarten and help ensure that more kids are ready. But I do think that it's important to sort of share about, across the country, every state sort of houses early childhood programs and services in different ways, and it really does vary significantly. And so for Kentucky, it is Kentucky's Early Childhood Advisory Council, and then our office, the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood, that serve as that coordinating and convening body to help with all of those fragmented funding streams and funding programs. because you've got the Kentucky Department of Education, you've got the Educational Workforce Development Cabinet, and then you've got the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. And so our role is to help be that coordinating and convening body for, to ensure that we're all united and sort of moving in the same direction. I think the other important piece about this visual that I like to share is that we're building on strengths. And then because of the great work that Kentucky has done, we've been able to pull down a couple pretty competitive federal grants. And with one of our last federal grants, Kentucky built a 5-year strategic plan. And that's what we use really to guide our work every single day. And it is all about increasing access and opportunity for children in the Commonwealth. Next slide. And this is the why, right? And kindergarten readiness and third grade reading are highly related. And we've been flat for 5 years. Half of our children enter kindergarten and they are underprepared. And subsequently, we're about at the same place with reading and math proficiency. And for those who were at the Early Childhood Institute recently, you heard the Lieutenant Governor talk about infant mortality and the overall health of children and the health of women, and how that data is, we have a long way to go, and how that data really hides the racial disparities. And I think that I would say on this is that, and this is not anything that you all don't know, but it's just urgent. Our work is really urgent. Next slide. So, I don't like to share the previous slide without sharing this slide, because we continue to do great work, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic, but without our great partners across the state, we wouldn't be able to do this, but we are continuing, with the original goals of the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood. We are investing in best practice solutions, and we're continuing to really help our partners think about sustainability and matching dollars, and the goal with these regional collaboratives, pivoting from those one-day activities to long-term behavior change. We've done great work supporting and growing the early childhood workforce with registered apprenticeships. As of 2021, 26 employer partners serving 48 locations. We've secured $2 million to grow our portfolio, and we are standardizing training and technical assistance across our network across the state level, which includes, all that use the early childhood standards. If you think about home visitation, you think about Head Start, public pre-K, childcare, and then working to encourage that at the local level, and then facilitating the work around scholarship investments. And again, thinking about sustainability. And something I'm super proud of is I do believe that we're using data to drive decision-making more than ever. The evolution of the Early Childhood Institute into a year-round hybrid series of high-quality trainings. Those who attended the recent Early Childhood Institute, we had over 200. And thank you all for your attendance. Thank you all for being willing to try something different and try something new with us. We've gotten some really great feedback about the targeted nature of it. And what we've heard is that you all really liked the ability to spend time with your teams. So thank you for that feedback. And we're really targeting our efforts to serve the most underserved communities. Next slide. And, this is all about you all, right? Community early childhood councils were developed 20 years ago, and daggone, what an innovative strategy that was 20 years ago. No one was doing this, right? And in 2019, our Early Childhood Advisory Council voted to streamline those councils into regional collaboratives. And so now we have about 31, and that really helps with decision-making and alignment and leveraging resources. And so our goal here is to grow what works, to grow bright spots, and to, do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. And so, I think that I would just really pause here to say today is a lot about, our role. The Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood is about expanding our efforts to serve really as that center for impact and innovation. That's really what we're working to do with supporting those solution-oriented conversations and highlighting and growing excellence in the field and building capacity and training new leaders. And then we've got our friends on the call from the Collaborative Center for Literacy and Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Kentucky, and they are going to tell you everything you need to know about Imagination Library in your community, and they know all the nuts and bolts on that. And then, regional collaboratives, you guys are the boots on the ground. You all have the 20 years of experience unifying those cross-sector partnerships. So together, we're going to work to grow a strategy that has impact. And we're excited about that. Next slide.
Amy, I'm just going to jump in real quick too and build off what you said for the regional collaboratives, because if you aren't currently a member of your regional collaborative, part of this webinar is to strongly encourage you all to get involved in your regional collaborative. And we want to make that as easy as possible because everyone on this call could share valuable input and participation and bring something to the table. And so if you're not currently involved with your regional collaborative, please reach out to me to get in contact with that local organization, that local collab, and we will get you connected because we would like to have as many of you all on that sitting at that table as we possibly could.
Megan, thank you so much. What a great flag. Sometimes I forget who the audience is. And so just to build on what Megan just said, our goal is to have every single Birth to 5 partner, every Birth to 5 champion, stakeholder, advocate at one of these regional collaborative tables. So if
we'll build a bigger table if we have to.
That's right. We'll build as many tables as we need. So exactly what Megan said, if you're not a part of one of those regional collaboratives, please reach out to Megan and she'll help connect you. So thanks, Megan. Thank you so much for that.
And leading right into that, we're going to do something a little fun. So we're going to take a little brain break, but you're going to have to use your brains a little bit. So first of all, let me get back on here. We are going to do a little giveaway. So I have a jar here of my daughter's, thank you to Maggie, her crafting sticks. And the first person to get the closest without going over in the chat will win a little prize from our office. So you have about 30 seconds to guess. So everybody can get that in the chat. I'm gonna do a few turns because Brenda Hagan on our team has a strategy she shared with me on these. Why don't you see the bottom?
That's the first one.
About 10 more seconds. Everybody get their guess in.
I didn't mean to put like 1,555. I meant to put 155.
That's fair.
But if I'm right, I still want my prize.
If I could get that, well, my house probably has that many craft sticks in it. I won't lie to you. We do a lot of popsicles and a lot of coloring. All right, I'm gonna give a final countdown. Looks like most people have gotten it in. And then I'm gonna have my trusty team go through the chat and see who was the first to get the closest or the exact without going over. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Hope everyone got their guess in. Just so you all know, the answer was 107. 107 craft sticks are in here. Yes, we ate that many popsicles. Do not judge. So I will let our team go through and see who got the closest without going over, and we will send and we'll get your addresses and send something to you. Stay tuned because that might happen again throughout the webinar. So I'm going to jump back in with our shared screen, but before I do so, I wanted to introduce our consultant partners. We consult with Compass, and Sarah and Kate are with us today, and they're going to be kind of helping us lead the webinar as well. They're a great partner for us. And if you guys were at the Early Childhood Institute, you got to meet Sarah during the action planning with Eastern Kentucky University. And they have also been a part of some of the tier 3 calls, technical assistance calls, office hour calls, and they're a great resource. So I'm going to kind of turn it over a little bit to them in just a minute, but I'm going to go through some of our webinar goals first. But let me get our screen back up. So if you all were able to, or if you've looked back and recalled from the September webinar that we did, we introduced that recent theme that we're going to be focusing on of that elevating and amplifying our existing work and our strategies and programs within your all's regional collaborative or your community. And so we're working with our regional collaboratives and partners to amplify and elevate their existing work and strategies that we have in place. And we've done that through that additional funding opportunity that we just recently had at the Early Childhood Institute through our tobacco settlement dollars, because we really want to scale up those strategies that we're working on and moving those activities from one-day activities to long-term behavior changes. And we're targeting our Kentucky Bright Spots through that theme. And so one of our themes for today, and we were specifically working towards, is to elevate and amplify, which is to learn the basics and learn the steps for good implementation of effective strategies. And the strategy that we're going to be focusing on in this today will be Dahlia Park Animation Library. But first, I'm going to let Sarah and Kate guide us through some of the basic how-to procedures.
Great. Thanks, Megan. This is Kate. It's good to be here with y'all this morning. I'm going to start and then I'll turn it over to Sarah in a little bit as well. But we're here to talk more about what good implementation looks like, as Megan was saying. And I think, you know, the reason it's so important is because good implementation is what leads to good outcomes, you know, and I think that's what we're all about, right? We're not in it for the money or the accolades. Certainly, we're here because we want to see lasting impacts for children and families. And so really the how of it all, how we do the work that we do is so important. I think that for those of you who are on the call early and doing part of the chat about our favorite Thanksgiving dishes, I think it's sparked a cooking theme in my mind and about how implementation, you know, planning for good implementation is sort of like cooking. Like you could have a great idea for a menu or a recipe, but it's not going to taste that good if you don't have the right ingredients and you don't have the recipe, you don't have the plan, you don't know how to do the steps. So I won't continue with the cooking theme, but I think that was something that it just sparked for me, was thinking about it in that way, just how we really want to tie the steps, the how we're going to do our work with those longer term outcomes. So we have this sort of frame that we were going to introduce: invest, deliver, measure, study, and sustain. So first, talking about investing in strategies that are proven to work. So we're lucky in the early childhood field. There's been so much research and know a lot about what works for kids and families. So first of all, selecting those strategies that really are going to work and give us the impact that we want to see. Then thinking about how we deliver our strategies. So really making sure we implement and we do the work as as it is proven to work. So a lot of models and strategies have a lot of specific elements, and making sure that we are delivering all of those in the way that they're intended. Then, of course, being able to measure and track our outputs. So we're able to communicate the outputs of our investments that we're doing. And then really learning and studying from those outputs and measurements. So really understanding and seeing the results of the investments, and from there being able to look at how we can sustain or modify that work. So, you know, it's sort of like the plan, do, study, act model. So thinking about once you've implemented and studied, really thinking about what that means for taking the work forward and being able to sustain it. Go to the next slide, please. So the first, talking about investing in what works. So we've been talking about bright spots, or those programs where we know that there's data that shows that these are successful programs. So looking for those bright spot models, models that really have data or evidence, and we know have good outcomes for children and families. But in addition to kind of thinking about what those models might be, really making sure it's a good fit for your community. Not every great strategy makes sense for every community or every kid and family, right? So it's really looking at that fit. So really looking at what your community's needs are, because also there could be a really urgent need that you need to address. So looking at what's most needed and what's feasible, what makes sense for your community, what your capacity is, what your resources are to be able to administer an evidence-based program. So once you've identified and invested in what the strategy is going to be, is really looking at sort of the delivery, how you're doing it, really looking at what the key implementation guides or standards are, and making sure that you focus on those. As we were saying before, it's really important that you implement a program as it's intended to be able to get those results. So one key, as you all know, is about staffing, of course, making sure you have the right kind of staff in place with the right qualifications and experience. There may be trainings, professional development, things that really can support a staff member being a good fit for the strategy that you're trying to implement. And also having oversight, having supervision and staffing that's really looking at the overall program goals and the overall program administration as well. And then looking at sort of the frequency and intensity of services. So like Amy was saying, I think we all know one-time events, you know, that's not enough for us all to change behavior. It's not enough for us as adults or kids, parents, doing or seeing something one time isn't enough to sort of make that change. And so really looking at what the strategy best practices are in terms of how often they happen, for how long. So, you know, some programs like home visiting, for instance, you know, might recommend a weekly home visit, and a home visit may need to be an hour and a half or so. So really making sure that you have planned for and are implementing those services sort of as frequently and as intensely as they are to achieve the results. And then also in terms of the services, making sure it's the right fit for the target population. So obviously there's a lot of different types of strategies that need to be administered for different populations. You wouldn't take something that's appropriate for infants and toddlers and then do that with a pre-K child, for instance. So just wanting to make sure that the strategy that you have is a good fit for the population that you're trying to serve. Also having a plan for, and we're going to talk more about this, but having a plan for what kinds of data you're going to collect, how you're going to be able to look at and evaluate the progress and the impact of your program. And making sure certainly that you have good outreach and marketing strategies in place so that you can get folks to participate. So you can have a great strategy, but if you don't have folks signed up for it, then it doesn't really matter. So making sure that you have targeted outreach, that if you have specific populations that you're trying to reach, that you have specific and targeted marketing towards those families and those populations so that you are serving the intended recipients. Okay, and then I think with the next slide, I'll turn it over to Sarah to start talking about measuring.
Thanks, Kate. The measurement piece is important for a number of reasons. I think one of the questions we most commonly have in the evaluation world is whether the program we're investing in is the right program at the right time, or whether the program is perhaps not having the results it wants to have because it isn't being implemented fully. We want to make sure that we're using investments that fit our community's needs and are feasible, but we also don't want to be too hasty to throw out a good program if we haven't been implementing it well. It may be a great program, but if we're not giving it the full chance to work, we can get really confusing results on the evaluation end. So what are some of the things we can measure that help us understand whether we're implementing well, and also give us the first most direct results of the investment, which are who's being touched, who's being served with this investment. So we always want to have a sense of how many were being served and to understand the difference between duplicated and non-duplicated counts. So how many unique non-duplicated individuals were served, and then how much they were served with, what services, what products were created or produced or delivered. And the combination of those two things, that's what we mean when we talk about dosage and intensity. The number of individuals that were served over a certain time period with a certain amount of services. And it's very different to serve a population with lower intensity versus higher intensity in trying to understand a program's results. Okay? Comparing that to what was expected. So did you deliver services the way you had hoped to, or the way the program was designed to be delivered? And this is especially important when it comes to frequency and the duration of visits. Or did you fall short for one reason or another? And over the past 2 years with COVID, we've definitely seen issues on implementation because all of these programs that were designed to be delivered in person have had to pivot to either not provide services less frequently, provide services virtually. So we've had to kind of quickly change our focus from in an evaluation sense to say, how do we accommodate that? So on one hand, it's been a great learning time. But on the other hand, we also are anxious to get back to service delivery the way it's been shown to work. How many more could benefit from services? It's always great to have a sense of what your potential for scale is. And then including your quality or performance assurance measures. How do you know that you're delivering services with a high degree of quality? And what are your performance expectations for your staff and for your program? Armed with this information, you can move into studying the project's outcomes. Outcomes have a very different focus. Outcomes are the results of all of that work. So as a result of providing services to your clients and your participants, as a result of all the time and effort that you're spending with them and in your community, are we seeing changes in knowledge, behaviors, perceptions, attitudes, willingness? And there's a little bit of a hierarchy here. We know to expect folks to be engaged first, their willingness to engage, their willingness to work with us. And then maybe we expect to see some changes in knowledge, some aha moments. And then over time, we start to see changes in behaviors and changes in the true outcomes that we were hoping to see. But this takes time. So it's also important to leave time to study the project's outcomes as well. Change doesn't occur in a day, and we have to understand the process by which change occurs. Now, how much of this evaluation can you afford to do? A single capture client means you're capturing data at one time point. Or do you have the availability to capture data multiple times? Multiple times, the more times you capture data, the stronger and the more you'll be able to do with it. However, that comes with a burden, right? That's more time and investment that you'll have to make on the program end. And just a reminder, satisfaction typically is not an outcome. It tends to be a performance or a quality measure. And we're getting kind of heavy into the world of evaluation here. So please let us know. Please follow up with Megan if we can provide some more feedback or help on these types of topics. So then once you have something that's working, it's working well, how do you sustain it? How do you scale it up? Right? And what's the working model for your community? What recruitment and outreach techniques especially work well in your community? Why are you trying to sustain it? Are you trying to respond to deepening client needs? Okay. Are you trying to respond, or are you trying to enhance and further your program outcomes? Why can you not afford to not support this program? All of these can be important thought points in looking for partnership and sponsorship for your program. Okay, really establishing not only that it's a great program and that folks really appreciate it and like the program itself, but why is it something that's so vital that we can't afford not to support it? And in fact, we need to grow it, we need to enhance it. And then really understanding what it will take to become sustainable. And that means being sustainable at your current level. How do you sustain what you're currently doing? But also, how can you grow it and bring it to scale? If you're not yet serving the entire community, what will it take to bring it to scale? We wanted to give you an example of this, but I know Megan first has a poll, and then we'll turn to an example of how these steps can be implemented with a sample bright spot.
Yes, so we are going to do a quick poll, and it's going to, oh, can we do that with screen sharing? Or do I need to? There we go. So how many of today's participants have early literacy programs or strategies in your community currently? And if it's a yes, then that's, and if it's a not yet, that's okay too. That's why it says not yet, not no. So we can help you create a strategy or program, or we can help you to elevate or amplify an existing one. Great. Thank you. So our example today that we're going to talk about with this delivering strategies with impact is the Dahlia Partnermation Library, which is a great partner for our office. And we are very honored today to have with us Christy Kraus and Keith Lyons. And so they're going to kind of guide us through a few of the upcoming slides on how this example works for this invest, deliver, measure, study, sustain model that we're using. And so I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Christy Kraus and Mr. Keith Lyons.
I always forget to unmute myself. Good morning, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today. And in thinking about, again, this model with those 5 pillars that you all shared, the Imagination Library is an absolutely perfect fit for all those 5 pillars as you're looking at it. And we want to share with you a little bit of that today. I am Keith Lyons, and I'm with the Collaborative Center for Literacy Development. And we are the statewide partner for the Imagination Library, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, for the rollout. And then my partner in crime, Christy Kraus. Are you there, Christy?
I'm here. Hi there. Again, Christy Kraus. I'm the regional director for the Dollywood Foundation. And Dolly and all of her staff is so excited that Kentucky has embraced the spirit of her Imagination Library program. And these are some really exciting times for not only all of you guys who are working in this space for our youngest learners, but it's super exciting for the kiddos across Kentucky. And so Keith and I have been working together for many, many years to see this day come to fruition. And we are committed to helping you guys build out sustainable programs in your communities. And so today, I just want to say that it's not a one and done. We could talk for days about everything that this program can do for your community, and then the different levels and layers of reporting and research and all that other stuff that goes along with this. But we're going to try to keep it very focused, which is hard for both of us, and stick to the slides. And again, just know that we are available for one-on-one consultations or regional consultations after this is over. So welcome.
Yeah, this is, as Chrissy said, a very exciting time for us. When we were charged with this about 10 years ago, when the First Lady, Jane Bashir, got really excited about the program and then charged us at CCLD, like, we want to get this in the state. We need to make it happen. And so it's taken us a while. The road has been long, but the journey has been fantastic in seeing this develop. And the last 3 weeks have been a whirlwind, from the announcement from the Department of Education 3 weeks ago to the Early Childhood Institute a couple of weeks ago with the announcement there about the funding pieces to that as well. And just the calls and the meetings that Christy and I are having on a daily basis. It's just been amazing to see how well this program is blossoming and becoming the fruition of the dream that we've all had. So it's great to be in this space with everyone. Just a few of the parameters, if you're not fully familiar with the Imagination Library, just to kind of give a quick recap, that it's a book a month program where children from from birth up to age 5 receive a book a month once they're registered within their communities. It typically is around $25 per child per year. And the great news of this a statewide endeavor is that really for local commitments is only half that now. So it's $12.50 for the state matching dollars that now go for those individual programs at those local levels. And as Christy said, this is not a one and done. It's a flash in the pan that we're here, dropping the information out, getting them rolling, and then we disappear. There's a lot of support that still comes with this. And as you see the things that are listed there, the things that we'll find both at these the larger level from the Dollywood Foundation and the Imagination Library folks, as well as the statewide partner supports that you're going to have through us at CCLD, and making sure that you've got those supports to do those things with recruitment, marketing, helping develop those collaborations and partnerships within the community. And you'll find that as your program continues to grow, it really does become a community effort. Everyone gets super excited about it. I mean, who doesn't love Dolly? We tried to get Christy maybe to sing a song for us, but I don't think she's going to do that for us today. But it's a really a program that really brings the community together. And again, for the youngest of learners. And as we have found in our work of these 10 years, that it really is a whole family unit. The family engagement piece is just amazing that comes out of this with that support for those earliest of learners. And going to the next slide and sharing again about some of those specifics that are in your model, those pillars, you're really thinking about that measure, study, and sustainability pieces. And thinking of those things that, again, there's the parameters that they fit within for birth up to age 5. And yes, we have had women calling us from the labor units, asking us to get their children enrolled, and the baby's not born yet. They're actually in birth calling to, of course, we have to have a birth date and a name. So we have to wait till they actually get there, but they get that excited about it. And the pieces that really come out of this, as you see, this is just a screenshot of the dashboard that's on the Dollywood Foundation. So looking from a logistical standpoint, these pieces are there for helping to support the work and making your work a little easier as you look at it at the local level.
Let me interject a little bit.
Sure.
When we were building out the operations model, we recognized very quickly that the people that we're aligning with, you guys, it's critical that you have access to data that's easy to understand and you can get it quickly. Not everybody has a Sarah on their team. Not everybody has somebody who loves research or loves statistics. And so as part of this model, there are so many different levels and layers of support materials, including the reports and things like that you can access with just a couple of clicks. And so I think think that is another level of importance to this. So it goes along with building those data-driven approaches without having to hire a Sarah or a Keith or somebody who is much smarter than I am that knows those numbers and things. So I think it's real important to know that that's another feature of this model.
Yes, thanks, Christy. And again, with those supports that are there, we also have there's some individualized training that can happen once an affiliate is on board so that they know how to navigate the system and to be able to pull out reports and see what all of the different tabs and the levels of the information that is there at your fingertips to use. And so those things will happen and be available once an affiliate is on board and begin to move forward. So don't ever feel like you're left out on your own and all of a sudden thrown into this system and have to figure it out, that there are supports there to help with that. We also at the state level will be helping individual communities work on those beginning efforts as well as the sustainability. So as I said earlier, it's not a one and done, that once you get going, we're there to help with the funding piece of it, the recruitment, figuring out how to make this sustainable, what things you can do to get the enrollment piece, and so many different levels. And then we're also going to be working on a Kentucky specific marketing guide as we get all of these on board with all of the counties of how we can network and learn from one another of ways that are the successes and the challenges that everyone's having in order to make it the most viable program in your particular area and making sure you're getting all the benefits out of it. Some of the things that are shared on the next slide are some of the things that backup system, the book ordering system does. And so there's many, as Christy said, lots of reports that can be run, lots of information that comes from that. And so when you're, again, looking at those pillars within your model, that measurement piece, there are things that will help you. And so these particular things it's not an exhaustive list. There's many things, and you can manipulate those reports as needed to be able to get the information that will help you grow and sustain your program to the best ability. Onto the next slide, if you don't mind, Megan. Just some ideas too, things that you can use this information for. One of the things that have been very useful for my work in this is really looking at those, manipulating those child lists and to be able to figure out which children are getting them in the areas that we work with, to make sure if there are pockets that are not being served yet, looking at by zip code, by addresses. Also in trying to figure out what the age levels are of the books that are going out and having those graduation celebrations that you can plan for once that month of the 5th birthday, you can start planning when you're seeing kids getting ready to exit out. And then also looking at where your new births are. You're having an influx of places that are coming in as newborns. And if not, then maybe that's a good place to start looking and working with your local hospitals or birthing centers to be able to do that. So we have really used that information quite a bit as we manipulate that data. You can look at, again, the welcome books as the very first book every child receives, regardless of their age, is the Little Engine That Could. And that's the one that comes with that beloved letter from Dolly and really gets everybody excited about the program. The next book after that will be the age appropriate within any of those age levels for their particular child at what age they're at. And then also the graduation book on the month of their 5th birthday is Kindergarten, Here I Come. And so that, again, getting an excitement for that next level for their education experiences. And then, as we said, you can track those numbers in different ways with those other things that are listed there as well. Next.
And another thing, let me piggyback. I'm answering questions too. I hope I'm not stepping on your toes, Megan. I'm one of those people. So another thing that this program offers is you've got a very rich database now of every family who has a child under the age of 5. What a wonderful, wonderful resource. And so we at the Dollywood Foundation have worked out a system in that you can communicate with those families about other services in your area, as long as it's something that enhances the Imagination Library, which everything that you all do, everybody that's on this call would fit that model. And you have to use MailChimp. It's been vetted and it communicates directly with our book order system. So you've got a very rich, easy plug and play way now to communicate some very rich information to those families.
And we're also going to be thinking of the next slide and thinking about some of the other information that can be shared too about the outcomes. And we are working diligently to get some data points that can be added to things like Infinite Campus, stuff that can be tied to Brigance, looking at stats, so that we can then determine what is the impact of the Imagination Library in your area. And so that's one of the key things that we really wanted to make sure, as this was an expansion for the state, was that not only are we getting these books out to these kiddos, which we all want them to have, but what is the impact? Or where are we seeing the best use, and how are they helping to enrich that kindergarten readiness to really support some of those earlier slides that you saw, where we looked at where our children are as kindergarten readiness and how to sustain. And so the research has been a real key part of this as well all along. And so we want to continue to enhance that and be able to work more and be able to capture data points that will help us to propel this even further. So I
Sarah, do you
believe.
have anything you want to add on that slide, or Kate?
This is a fantastic partnership to be able to link into the Dollywood Foundation's resources with Imagination Library, but then also to think about this from a statewide perspective and really being able to study program results. Yeah, we're getting now beyond numbers, and we're seeing the so what factor, right? Because of these books, what kind of changes are we seeing in family shared literacy practices, or the number of books in the home, or hopefully children's readiness, language and pre-literacy readiness when they get to school. So I heard Keith and Christy mention that they are on board to help you sustain programs or think about sustaining programs in your community. And this is the fifth pillar. These are kind of my guiding questions, but Keith, Christy, anything you would add about sustaining the programs?
I think for me, the top part, again, being involved in this, and Christy as well, I've shared this story, and those of you that were at the Early Childhood Institute heard this, so I apologize that I'm repeating it, but it was the impetus for me. I was really excited about it. I mean, who doesn't get excited about Dolly? And then I've always been a literacy guy. That's been my thing for my entire life. But really, when Christy shared with me, when we went down to visit and kind of started to investigate how we could turn this into a statewide model, was that she shared that it really does level the playing field early on, that regardless of where the children are coming from, what side of the tracks, what side of the zip code, what their mom and dads do, whatever their home situations are, it really does help level out things right away. Because now when these kids get together in their first education experiences, whether it's Head Start, preschool, daycare, kindergarten, there's a whole set of books that these children had exposure to. And so there's common text and common language. And so it really does start pulling things together at an early level. And it is oblivious to where all of those other factors that I just mentioned, what those things are. These books really are a uniting piece of that. And as I shared earlier, that we found that it goes even beyond the early childhood realm, that we're looking at seeing families, adults who really want to read to their child and have some struggling issues. And so they're seeking services now that, hey, I really want to read to our kiddos, and I'm not sure, I'm not the best at it, or how do I do this? And so we're seeing that kind of a movement too in the family engagement pieces, where they're now looking to find those literacy supports. And then even at the middle and high school levels, where children, I was one that I helped raise my brother and sister as we were growing up during the summers, that I've watched them. And so we read a lot together. And so being able to practice those reading skills and getting engaged. So it truly is a family unit. And then we have several communities that really make it a community-wide effort, where there are readings together, where they're doing signups and enrollment. Everyone gets really excited about it. So that's some of those factors in that, I think, as Sarah said, the so what piece, not only looking at the numbers, but what else does this mean for that community growth? And of course, then that has some economic standpoints as well. That's going to have to be able to promote economic development and growth, because everyone's excited about this, and literacy is that foundation piece. So as you're looking at other programs, I just have never come across something that is so comprehensive and touching so many lives in so many ways, that really is a positive benefit and a support that uplifts the community as well as the family and the children.
Hey, Megan, it's Amy. I just wanted to jump in just quickly and just remind folks and sort of build a little bit on what you said. For the 200 folks who are at the Early Childhood Institute, they got to hear this, but for some of our friends who are on the webinar who were not, we had a tremendous session about growing early literacy. And really, this is all about a united goal of supporting language and literacy development in early childhood. And so, the regional collaboratives are the perfect spot to really help move this strategy forward. Again, you're the boots on the ground. You've been at this for more than 20 years. You've got the experience uniting these birth to 5 cross-sector partnerships. So all of this aligns beautifully to growing, elevating, and amplifying Kentucky Bright Spots, because the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is a Kentucky Bright Spot because data show that it works. So just wanted to jump in and remind folks the why. So thanks, Megan.
And that last point on that slide before, we even talked about the funding and rating of funds. And I think that's one thing that we have a lot of questions about. And it's a very good question about looking at different ways to be able to support the program within your community. And so looking at different grant opportunities, having some donations through philanthropic events or corporate supports, fundraising efforts. There's a plethora of ways to look at for that financial piece of it, but also in doing braiding not just the funds, but even the community support and looking for recruitment partners and individuals who will help you maybe guide and direct what your program is going to look like. And those are, again, things that we at the state and the bigger level through the Dollywood Foundation will be working to help all of our local communities tap into these things and figure out ways to look at these money sources, to figure out how to get those local areas developed, and having somebody, those, as Amy said, the boots on the ground individuals who can help grow your program and get children registered. So these are just a few ideas to be thinking about. And I think that this slide deck is going to be shared, I believe, Amy, and if not, that's stuff that we can also push out through Wes as well. That'll kind of just help you to start thinking about some of the ideas that may help you as you are working toward either developing and implementing and getting this into your area, or whether you're looking to grow and sustain it. So
Exactly.
And as Christy has shared, we are here for you to help in whatever way we can. We are very excited about this, and she and I have been partners in crime for quite some time. I should say partners in Dolly. There
you go. That sounds good.
So, but we are so stoked about this. And again, it's been a dream we've been working on, and we're super excited about it. I believe that there might even been a question I saw that was this matching piece ending for a year. Our legislators are committed to make this a much more sustainable program. So it's not, again, that flash in the pan. That the intent is in this next legislative cycle that there will be actual legislation laid out with those dollars tied to it, and then to be able to sustain this for a very long time, if not for eternity, as far as I'm concerned, to keep working to make sure that those books are flowing and that every child in Kentucky has the ability to sign up and get registered.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Christy and Keith, and I will share their contact information along with a recording of all of this. It includes their slide deck for you all to reach out if you have further questions based on the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And then, of course, our team is always ready and willing to help in any way we can, especially when it comes to providing early literacy strategies and programs in your regional collaborative or your community. So thank you, Keith and Christy. If you guys can stay on the call, we might have some questions at the end that you guys could help with. But we're going to do a quick little fun brain break again. We're going to do a scavenger hunt at your desk or your workstation or wherever you are today. So I have entrusted my team to be watching with their eyes to see who comes first, but let me first get here so that we can all see everyone. So the first person to show our team, ready, their work badge. Let me know, team, when we have a winner.
Heather LeBlanc.
Okay. Good job, Heather. First person to show me your lunch or a food item.
Michelle Jesse.
Okay. First person to show me hand sanitizer.
Barbara Allen.
Y'all are all over. First person to show me a $1 bill.
Katie Ingalls.
Good job. And last one, first person to show me a picture of a loved one. Could be a human, a pet.
Elizabeth Schwartz.
Good job. Thank you all. And I will have one of our team members reach out to you all and get your contact information, and we will send you a little goodie in the mail. Thank you for everybody for participating. So another thing that we would like for you all to drop in the chat is what topics would you like to hear about next? Are there additional trainings or technical assistance that we can provide to help you with? Some examples that we had were data, how to get it, how to use it, how to measure it, ways to organize it, implementation guidance, evaluation, grant writing, anything that would be beneficial to you all. If there's another, we're going to be targeting our bright spots, and we're going to find ways to target those throughout the future webinars. But you know, if there's one that if anybody on the webinar wants to participate in a way, please let me know that too. We always like peer interaction and peer involvement. So please feel free to drop some suggestions or ways that we can help in the chat for future webinars. And as always, we are here to help you, and we want to help you. Myself and Sarah and Kate work very closely together, and these are all of our emails. I'm sure you all have them by now, and I'm probably overloading a lot of email boxes, and I will continue to do so. I apologize in advance. But please reach out to us and let us know if we can help. That's what we're here to do. I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Ms. Amy Neal, for some closing thoughts and remarks from her before we get to questions.
Hey, everyone. I just wanted to really thank you for spending time with us this morning. Everyone is super busy. So just thank you for what you do every day to ensure that more children in the Commonwealth have high quality experiences before they enter kindergarten. I want to do a special shout out to a couple of our Early Childhood Advisory Council members who participated today. I saw Senator Danny Carroll and Rena Gratz. I hope I didn't miss anyone else, but thank you so much for joining us today. I also saw some school leaders. I saw a superintendent, Misty Middleton from Williamstown Independent. Thank you so much for joining us today. It sure means a lot. And Megan, I'll turn it over back to you.
Okay. Please stay on with us because we're going to have some time for some questions and answers, but we hope that everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving and happy holidays. We are so thankful to you. I will echo what Executive Director Amy Neal just said. We couldn't do what we do without you all. You all are the boots on the ground and the reasoning behind what we do. And I tell everyone that I wear a lot of hats in my life, but the best hat I wear is that of mom. And it feels really good to get to go home at the end of the day and say I made a difference in my daughter's life by doing what I do at work. And that's because of you all. So thank you for that. Please go ahead and mark your calendars for our next webinar. It will be January 26th, 2022. So happy Thanksgiving, happy Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. Don't worry, you'll hear from me before then. But I'm now going to open it up for questions, and please also keep in mind that I will be sending out a post survey, and we really do look at those surveys and value your input and take those for what we need. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn and Rebecca to read out some questions if there were any in the chat, and if not, feel free to unmute and ask those questions now if you haven't already done so.
There were several people who are asking, is the state match, do you need to be a 501c3? That's been a common question.
You have to have an existing Imagination Library program in place. And as part of your collaborative that brings the Imagination Library program to your community, there needs to be at least one 501c3 entity in that group.
And as the new programs come on, they're available for to tap into those matching funds too. So.
Christy, you were so speedy with the responses in the chat. I'm not sure which questions you I answered, and then the next one came. A couple questions. Do you all have all the Kentucky counties need to be participating in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library in order for the counties to receive the state match?
Nope, we're currently providing those matches now. You just have to have an active Imagination Library program. The goal and the charge that Keith and I have been commissioned with is we are going to have all 120 counties on board, but that is not a requirement to access the match. You just have to have an Imagination Library program in place.
And I think there was a question too that had come up about what does the local councils do? We actually put together a sheet that we shared at the Early Childhood Institute, and we'll make that available through Lynn and through Megan so that you all can access that if you did not have a chance to grab one of those or see it digitally at the conference.
Is there also a list of the counties that are currently in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library?
And it's constantly changing. Yeah, but I think that would be great. Keith and I have been working probably every other day to update the map and our contact list. But Rebecca, that's something that we can provide to your all's team so that you can also publicize that and then direct traffic back to the Kentucky Imagination Library web landing page as well. But we can certainly coordinate that information with you guys.
Just to give you an idea, of about 3 weeks ago, we had about 40 some counties that were not involved. We're down to 26, I think, that are left that we've not reached out or haven't heard from yet. So that number is becoming it's becoming a great number. And I think we shared with you all that we have the commitment, and I'm saying it out loud again, that once we get all counties covered, Dolly's coming. So you may need your help to get all those counties colored in.
And then Amanda Cook asked kind of early on in the discussion, they are having their launch on November 27th and then again on December 6th. And she is looking for some contact information to help with some website questions.
Yeah, if she wants to reach out to me, then I can be the conduit for the correct person on my team to help with that.
Kaylee Henderson just asked, how does she find out if there is a Dolly Parton Imagination Library in her county, if there's one that's already existing? And then if not, how would she go about getting one in place?
Yeah, again, if you want to just reach out to me directly, I can help with that information. And if there's not one in place, certainly Keith and I can help get one started for you.
That's all the questions I have. There was a lot of repeats, and you are covered all the repeats so far, unless Lynn, do you have anything else with questions?
No, just Bridget just asked for contact information. So I'll put Christy's email there again, because it was pretty early on.
The sheet that you were talking about sharing that was shared at the conference, is that a list of the data and how we can access the data for our district?
Say that again. I didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry. Keith talked about a sheet that was shared at the conference. And I'm hoping to access the data. What you all described today is phenomenal. And I would love to be able to access that data. Is that something we have access that? How do we get that data? What data is it? I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, we can work with you on that. Typically, it's whoever is running your affiliate. So there is a person in there that you're coordinator that has access to that, and then they can also have other people listed to help with the data entry and run those reports. So finding out who your individual is that may be the primary contact would be the first person I would check with, and they can help kind of get those reports generated and or share access to be able to get into those. But we can help you too, to kind of share what information is in there and how to navigate.
So if we purchase through the Kentucky contract, plus expensive, and the coordinator is someone else who is sponsoring memberships at a higher rate, how do we still go to that person that has the contract to access the data?
Yeah, there can only be one affiliate, because you're using terms that I'm not familiar with, but there can only be one Imagination Library affiliate for your community.
Right.
And so that affiliate is the one who helps with the outreach and then covers the cost of the books. But of course, within that affiliate, there's a network of multiple partners. But there is just one affiliate per service area. Does
Okay.
that answer your question, Beth?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, Megan, it's Amy. One thing that's on my mind too, and it's probably on folks' minds here too, but just thinking about the upcoming RFA, which, I mean, it's not till March, but it will be here before we know it. If Imagination Library is going to be a strategy that your community wants to push forward with, now's the time to really mobilize all of those partners, right? Your library and your school system and your United Ways and your everybody's, right? Less is more. So now's the time. So just think about that. I love that the visual that Keith had about blending and braiding all of those dollars. And so, and that's why we're here too. If you want to do any thinking with our team or our team with Keith's team, you just let us know. We'll be happy to do that.
And again, Sarah, this will perk up Sarah and Kate about the research piece of it. But we even have a couple of counties that have worked diligently to figure out how to connect the impact to their kindergarten readiness. And we have in Wayne County, Angela Ballinger is the principal of the Walker Learning Center, and she has found a way that they have mapped out and they're able to track which kids are getting the Imagination Library and what it's doing their Brigand scores. And in this past year, they had on average a 5-point increase over the ones who did not get the Imagination Library. And as she constantly reminds us, that's only an average. She had some that were getting 20 points average, and we're going to be working at the statewide level to be able to find a way to capture that data, those data points I was talking about earlier. So how we can connect that. So when you're looking at even impact, that's going to be a great resource to be able to look at that and help to even move further. So,
Keith, you're going to be my new best friend.
Good. I'm a research
It's a good
geek
one to
too.
have, Sarah.
I'm a research geek. I love to read research, be involved in it. And for those that need it, we at CCLD, when we first got involved, started developing trainings on how to use the books in even greater ways that we'd be willing to share with you all, some activities and strategies. But we focus a lot on those shared reading, on guided reading stuff. We talk about dialogic reading and getting parents involved, talk about what are good reads, helping to get connected to your public and school librarians to help expand the book exposure. So those are things that we are available to help with those too. So.
And Keith, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but Christy Leonard was wondering if they got a release from families to be able to see the results with the Brigands.
I'm not sure about that. That'd be a good question to ask Angela. So I'll catch it and talk to her. Actually, she was just texting me. She was going to try to join us today, but she had a frisky meeting and couldn't get on. So I will check with her.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question here that says, how about the return label charge we're paying each month? With whoever your managing partner is, again, whoever is the affiliate, should be getting a report that actually it happens right after the book order system when the mailing goes out from NCOA, which is a change of address, and it will show it actually comes from the postal system, and it shows that these books were not able to be delivered. And so following through with that, I don't know the return label charge. Christy, do
Yeah,
you know what-
sometimes affiliates will, there is another level where they can pay for a postal endorsement to be included on their book label. So in that case, they can either get the book back itself, or they can just get the corrected address. It depends on the endorsement that they opt into. But it sounds like maybe in this particular case, they've opted for a postal endorsement. But if you want to reach out to us directly, and we can take a deeper dive into that and see exactly what you're talking about and the cost and the endorsement situation.
Yeah, so Christy's email address is on there. So if you have any additional questions, please reach out to her. Look up in the chat just about 4 back. If you have any additional questions. And Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you to close us out.
Great, thank you. A big thank you to everyone who helped make this webinar possible, to our team at the Kentucky Governor's Office of Early Childhood, of course, and then our consultant Compass, and of course our trustee partners of the Dahlia Partner-Mation Library with Keith and Christy. Their contact information is shared, and this webinar has been recorded and will be on our website for you all to refer back to, and I can share the slide deck with anyone that is interested to. Just a reminder, these webinars are for you all, and they are to your benefit. So please take time to fill out that post survey so we know what we can do to improve them. And as always, thank you all for being who you are and great partners that you are, and the boots on the ground for what we do, why we do it. Without you all, this wouldn't be possible. You all are our 0 to 5 advocates, and we are just here to help you and support you in any way we can. So thank you all for everything. And if there's any more follow-up information, please reach out to me or anyone on our team, and we'll be happy to assist you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week, and of course, a wonderful holiday. And you'll be getting some goodies if you were a Brain Break winner. So thank you all again. And just remember to elevate and amplify those strategies.
Great job. Thanks.
Thank you all.
You all.